Did you just see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and have some questions, or just want to learn more about where the series started back in 2014? Well, this is the video for you. Today I will be going over everything you need to know about the Five Nights at Freddy's storyline up until FNAF 6. That's Pizza Sim for you newbies. Don't worry, I'll be explaining things along the way, and remember, nothing is certain in FNAF, so this timeline of events may be wrong. Check out other channels and series to get the best possible experience with this franchise and the community at large. That being said, let's begin with all things do, the 70s. Two young men, William Afton and Henry Emily, came together to create Fredbear's Family Dino, a small establishment that took the small town of Hurricane, Utah by storm. While William worked on the business side of things, Henry created the robots that would entertain children of many ages. Fredbear and his partner Spring Bonnie weren't just the average suits though, as Henry was able to combine suits and robots into one, something called a spring-lock suit. An animatronic suit that could be cranked open and worn as a suit. A marvel really, but with every marvel comes a cost. These suits were dangerous. The spring locks inside the suits were a bit quirky, and with too much movement or moisture, the spring locks could snap shut, pushing the endoskeleton back into position and crushing the user, killing them brutally. But besides a few malfunctions and hiccups with the suit, things were running smoothly for the two men. By 1983, William and Henry were running Fazbear Entertainment, and a second restaurant was open, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It was a whole line of new characters: Freddy Fazbear himself, an offshoot of Fredbear, Bonnie the Bunny, an offshoot of Spring Bonnie, and two new animatronics, Chica the Chicken and Foxy the Pirate Fox. These four were so popular that they even got a cartoon alongside Fredbear. Spring Bonnie was not included, though, which kinda rubbed Afton the wrong way. Spring Bonnie was always Afton's favorite, even wearing him sometimes when the staff was short on busy party days. But Afton let it go. He was happy. He had a beautiful wife, 3 children, Michael his oldest, his daughter Elizabeth, and his youngest, a crying child. But we'll call him Evan. Evan was a bit of a crybaby. Every little thing got him upset. But more than anything, Evan hated the spring-lock suits. Afton was always too busy to deal with Sid, so he left Michael in charge of him while William worked on his locations and his wife worked. Michael wasn't the best babysitter though, and would constantly tease Evan for this, using a paper foxy mask to scare him at every turn. Eventually, William knew that he couldn't just ignore his son and his behavior, so before his upcoming birthday, William gifted the child with a golden plushie Fredbear. The child always was attached to the golden bear, and while the suits scared him, the plushies were fine. This wasn't just a kind gift from a father. Afton had other motives. He put a walkie-talkie in it. Afton always was interested in the human body and psyche, and in helping with his Blossom company, Afton became interested in robotics. And would spend many evenings in the nearby bunker while studying robotics and the human psyche. He wanted to see why his son was so afraid, what fear would create. So alongside Michael's teasing, William, through the Fredbear, would talk to Evan about his fears, pushing further paranoia into the boy, reminding him about what he heard about Freddy's, that children at night would go missing, that people got stuffed into robots. You saw it yourself, didn't you? You saw someone put a body inside the Fredbear suit. Evan saw something. He saw a shadowy man at Fredbear's putting a Fredbear head on another man in the suit, stuffing him. This scared Evan. He thought someone was gonna stuff him into a suit just like he saw, but Afton knew that wasn't really true. No, what Evan really saw was his own dad, covered in shadow, helping another worker put on a spring-lock suit. These things were tricky, and one wrong move could have killed the guy inside, but Evan didn't know that. Afton was still interested in testing his son, seeing what he'd do, but William couldn't expect what would happen next. On Evan's birthday, while William was dealing with something else, Michael and his no-good friend surrounded Evan in masks of the Freddy's character and started teasing him. Things went too far as Michael convinced his friends to play a prank on Evan. They picked him up, took him to see his favorite character, Fredbear, standing on the stage in suit mode alongside Spring Bonnie. They put Evan in his mouth, just to freak him out. Something went wrong. It could have been the tears from the crying child, making the spring lock loose. It could have been just the metal bales clamping down teeth, but it bit down on Evan's head. Screaming was heard as William rushed over, Michael and his friends in shock. It was just a prank. It wasn't supposed to be so serious. Evan was rushed to the hospital, but soon after he passed on, but not before getting an apology from a guilt-filled Michael and a promise from his father. I will put you back together again. And with Fredbear and his friends nearby, Evan passed on. Things were slow again afterwards. Fred took a hit after the accident, but again, it was just an accident. Henry was precautious though. He had a daughter, Charlotte, that was Evan's age. He didn't want to risk it. So Henry created a new security program called the Security Puppet, a marionette on strings that could move around the building, and a program that would be linked to the bracelets on children's arms. This would help keep children safe and prevent bullying, but children would be children. One rainy night while Henry was put on double duties to make sure Fredbear's was afloat while William grieved, Charlie was locked outside the building by bullies. They put a box over the gift that the puppet lay dormant in, blocking it from retrieving Charlie as the others laughed at the little girl. The kids dispersed, but the puppet was left trapped, and Charlie outside. She wasn't alone. No, William just drove up and he saw his partner's kids look outside. William wasn't doing too good. His family life was ruined, his wife was a shell of herself, just watching TV and barely being lucid. Elizabeth was more needy than ever, trying to suck up to daddy, and Michael, bastard child that got his own son killed. William hated him. Oh, he hated him so much. William saw Charlie out there and something took hold of him. Base instinct, an impulsive thought. He shut the door of his car as Charlie turned to him. She smiled, she knew him. Uncle William. He'd help her. But as he approached Charlie, her smile faded. Maybe it's been there all along. Maybe William was always jealous of Henry's success. Henry, the genius behind the animatronics. Henry, who no matter what William tried, he couldn't be as good as. Maybe it was the death of his son, the tragedy, and the grief. Whatever came over him, before Charlie could even scream, William jumped on her, and he killed her. He sped off immediately, leaving the young girl's lifeless body in the alleyway. But a few moments after he left, the security puppet burst out, the rain soaking it, starting to deactivate the machine. But it didn't care. It had to find the girl with the green bracelet. And it did, or at least her body. The puppet shut down on top of her, and that's when Charlie was given her second chance, her second life. Charlie possessed the puppet. Scared and alone, Charlie watched as the puppet was brought back into the dino, now with purple teal streaks going down the mask. Charlie watched her father grieve. She wanted to tell him, comfort him, but she couldn't. She was trapped in this machine, cursed to watch. Not long after, Henry left to travel abroad, leaving Fazbear Entertainment in the capable hands of its board of directors and William, his friend. But during Henry and William's goodbye, Henry couldn't help but get a feeling about William. He changed. He was different, and a shivering sense of dread filled Henry. Did William have something to do with his daughter's death? No, it was impossible. William is Henry's friend. Henry could have taken action right there. Gone was his gut, done something, but he didn't.
First inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this.
With no checks or balances. William was ecstatic. Henry was hurt more than William could ever have thought, and while Fredbear's had to close down, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was still going strong, making for any losses that the closing of Fredbear's would have had done to the company. William's home life wasn't any better though. Mrs. Afton and William were in the middle of a messy divorce and custody battle for the kids. William already lost one child. He wasn't gonna lose his daughter or his son. No, Michael didn't get off that easily. Speaking of Michael, the kid kept breaking out of his room, ranting like a madman about a ghostly Fredbear out his window, and flashes of, "It's me." But William knew that was impossible. Fredbear alongside Spring Bonnie and the puppet were all locked in his secret off-camera room in Freddy's. These rooms used to be for putting on the spring locks, but after more and more injuries and worries about bad PR, the spring locks were retired. That being said, William did notice something odd happening. Sometimes he'd hear night guards saying that the puppet walked around at night, roaming the halls. William did catch glimpses of this thing, moving, but the program was off. Why was it roaming around? Why did it have the purple teal mark? That wasn't there before. It's like the thing had a brain of its own. William was curious. The thing was avoiding him, glaring when he thought he wasn't paying attention. Was that Charlie? No, she's dead. But still. William was there when they found the body. He was caught, of course. He saw the puppet on top of the corpse. William also caught a glimpse of shadowy creatures, a bunny and a bear, like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. But not quite. There was something not right here, and William knew exactly what to do. William was a wealthy man, so it was no problem for him to create an underground base for himself. He used his bunker and expanded it, making a bedroom alongside some basic hallways that he could monitor. William wanted to expand on what he did with Evan. Did the death of Charlie create these shadows? Was Charlie inside the puppet? Some kind of combination of soul and metal? William needed the run test, and he had the perfect test subject. He in the Spring Bonnie costume would kidnap Michael and take him to the experiment rooms, pumping it with gas that William experimented on, monitoring him as Michael dealt with rotting, organic-looking nightmares of the four original animatronics. Or at least that's what the gas made him think. Actually, he was facing dummies, props that the gas turned into Michael's worst nightmares. William would study him while working on his side projects, new animatronics that would start in a sister location. Meanwhile, William wanted to try something else. The feel, it was good, but it was nothing like the puppet, so he needed more subjects. Michael was too useful to kill. William had the perfect plan. He needed more test subjects like Charlie, and Freddy's had plenty to choose from. It was easy. Children was so easy to manipulate. In 1985, William donned his favorite suit, Spring Bonnie, and came up behind a girl with curly blonde hair. She was playing Fruity Maze and sniffering. This was more than a child losing a game. No, she was grieving. A feeling that William knew all too well. William was studying her. Her name was Susie, and she just lost her dog, hit by a car not too many days before. Spring Bonnie came up to her and tried to console her, but she wasn't really having it, just focused on playing the game as tears went down her face. William knew he had to try harder, so he told her that the dog was okay. That got her attention. He told her that he can help her get him back. Just follow him. She did, desperately clinging on to hope that her dog would be okay. He followed him back into the safe room, off cameras, and she was the first. William left her lifeless body on the ground of the safe room as he gathered more kids. Gabriel, Fritz, and Jeremy. It was easy. A few excuses here and there. Oh, I need help with my homework. Oh, your house is on fire. Stuff like that. William killed all 4 of them, leaving them laying around the safe room when he got an idea. He glanced over to the golden Fredbear suit, its hand bow tie now black to match Freddy's if they ever wanted to use him again in the future. William saw what would happen if a child was spring-locked. That agony. Ooh, that agony. Would that be enough to create this remnant, this living soul metal that changed the puppet? He lured one more back, a curly black-haired little girl. He didn't kill her though. Stuffed her into the Fredbear suit. She tried to fight back, yeah, she was feisty compared to the others, but William beat her before activating the spring locks. Cassidy's death was slow and agonizing. William knew what the suit would do to her, but soon enough, the blood was running down the floor as the golden bear twitched in agony. William took off his suit and left. He was lucky not to be seen as he left the safe room. He knew the safe room was off-limit, with the spring locks discontinued, so employees shouldn't go back there anytime soon. But someone was watching. Charlie, inside the puppet, knew what William did, that he killed again, and Charlie wasn't gonna have it. She was a good person, she cared and wanted to help the children. So that night, after the concerned parents and missing person reports were fired, Puppet snuck into the back room and looked on. Charlie didn't know what happened to her, but she knew whatever was keeping her spirit here may help. She knew that the remnant in her could heal, but she knew she didn't have enough. She could have maybe brought one back with her powers, but she couldn't choose. None of these children deserved it. So she tried splitting the remnant up. She gave gifts, but it didn't work. So Charlie did the only thing she knew how. She one by one took the suits into the back and stuffed the children in them, not only in hopes of some kind of healing, but to prevent the restaurant from shutting down. Charlie couldn't help if the police took the bodies, or if she was discommissioned. So one by one, she stuffed the kids into the animatronics, helping those spirits find their bodies and remembering what happened, and they were angry. That's before another suit moved. Charlie wasn't paying attention to this one. Golden Freddy started twitching violently and radically. Charlie didn't do anything to this one, but Cassidy was a whale and a witch. She was vengeful. She wanted to make Afton suffer just as much as she did, and she wasn't alone. There was someone else inhabiting that metal, Evan Afton. Cassidy and Evan could talk to each other. Evan's memories was fuzzy, confused, and scared. He couldn't even see. Cassidy was angry, but she wasn't a monster. She tried to help Evan as much as she could, but the two couldn't do much, not even being able to move like the others. They were eternally trapped in the back room, waiting, but with both of them in lockstep and Cassidy's vengeance, they could project themselves. Evan was haunting Michael, and now Cassidy was along for the ride.